The Duffer Brothers made us wait 2 years in between seasons 2 and 3. Remember when everyone thought 2 years was a long time to wait for a season of Stranger Things? If only we knew then. Without further ado, let's get into this recap of Stranger Things Season 3. Chapter 1. Suzy. Do you copy? This season opens up in Russia. They have built this giant laser. The laser creates a hole in the wall, and slimy, seemingly upside down tentacles begin to creep out. But suddenly, it begins to fail. The hole closes, the laser freaks out, and like 5 people are immediately dead. One of the scientists working on the laser gets ganked by the Terminator. Really, he's the Terminator. Don't expect a resolution on any of this for like 5 or 6 episodes. Back to the people we actually care about. Mike and Eleven are in her room, making out a lot. Hopper is pissed because he thinks they're spending too much time together, and yeah, they keep closing the door on him.
3-inch minimum! Leave the door open 3 inches!
Then they gaslight Hopper. Funny, but wrong. Afterwards, Mike heads to the new Starcourt Mall. Steve is working at an ice cream shop in said mall, and the kids use the delivery hallways to sneak into the movies. While Mike and gang are at the movies, the power suddenly shuts out, not just at the mall, but all over town. While the power is still down, we are transported across town to the steel mill, which I will be calling the factory from now on. In the basement of the factory, this swirling cloud of smoke forms as the theme music for the Upside Down plays. When this happens, Will gets the tingly winglies, and he immediately flashes back to the mind flayer from last season. Power comes back on, and he completely ignores it. Cause that got him so far last season. The next day, Dustin comes back from a month away at summer camp, and the D&D club surprises him. Dustin forces them to hike up this big-ass hill to build a giant radio thing called Cerebro, so he can talk to his girlfriend. She lives in Utah. Also, nobody believes that she's real because Dustin can't get a hold of her. But he does say, "Suzy, do you copy?" about 80 times in this episode. While they are in this field, Will gets the tingly winglies again. At the same time, rats from all over town are converging on the factory. They immediately head for the basement. When they arrive, they start twitching and then explode. Gross. Nancy and Jonathan both got summer jobs over at the local paper. The guys at the paper are sexist pigs and treat Nancy like crap. Really, the only thing that happens with them this episode is Nancy, while at the paper, takes a call from a woman who says she has diseased rats in her house. That's it. Joyce is still working at the same store, but the rest of downtown Hawkins is completely shut down thanks to the new mall. Hop visits Joyce at the store to rage about Mike and Eleven. He does a lot of raging this season. There is a bit of regression there. Joyce helps him brainstorm and write down what he should say to Mike and Eleven, rather than just beating the tar out of Mike. That night, Mike is back over at the cabin, and Hop is supposed to have a calm conversation about boundaries. Instead, he lies and says that Mike's grandmother is sick, and he has to go home right now. Hop gets Mike in the car and proceeds to threaten him, telling him he's spending too much time with Eleven. Billy is working at a lifeguard at the community pool. He is thirsting after Mrs. Wheeler. But can you blame him? I mean, look at her. Billy is a little slut and invites Mrs. Wheeler to a motel just outside of town that night. And Mrs. Wheeler says yes. They both get ready for the night, but as Mrs. Wheeler is leaving, she sees her husband and daughter asleep on the couch, and she decides not to go. Billy, however, hops in the car and heads straight to the motel. On his way there, something smacks into his windshield just as he passes by the factory. As he's assessing the damage to his car, something from inside the factory wraps around his foot and drags him to the basement. And that's the end of episode 1. Chapter 2. The mall rats. A lot of rats in this season. The next day, Eleven calls Mike because he hasn't showed up at her place yet. He lies to her, saying that he can't come over because his grandma is sick. Eleven is visibly upset, and Hop couldn't be happier. Great parenting, bud. She is so upset that she goes over to Max's house and asks her for some advice. Max tells her, Mike is lying to you. If he won't tell you the truth, break up with him. Conflict resolution skills lacking, but she is like a 13-year-old, so. Max takes her to the mall to have a girls' day. Super cute. At the mall, they run into Mike, not with his sick grandmother. and Elle breaks up with him. Hop asks Joyce to dinner. She agrees. But as he's leaving, he trips over some magnets on the floor. When Joyce goes to put them back up, she can't because they've lost their magnetism. That tingles her spidey senses because the same thing happened yesterday at her house. Real quick, peep this picture of Bob that Will drew. Did you at least kiss the brick before you threw it at my face? Joyce, looking for info about magnets, goes to Mr. Clark's house. Style icon. They talk magnets, and he says the only way that this could be happening is if there was a huge solenoid disrupting the magnetic field. Of course, costing millions of dollars. Of course, costing tens of millions of dollars and requiring a buttload of energy. She's so distracted by all of this that she forgets about her date with Hop. Hopper spends his day breaking up a protest outside the mayor's office. People are protesting about the mall. Apparently, the mayor helped it get built, making him rich and basically half the town completely broke. At the end of the last episode, Dustin, while trying to contact Suzy with his big boy antenna, picks up someone speaking Russian. It's our Russians. They're not in Russia anymore, and they brought their giant laser with them. Dustin is upset with his friends blowing him off the previous day, so he heads to the mall to see Steve, bringing a recording of his Russian transmission so they can translate it together. Steve works with Robin. We love Robin in this house. No hate will be tolerated. Anyway, Robin is really the one who ends up translating the message. As they're leaving that night, Steve realizes that Russian message was recorded in the mall. Nancy goes to the house of the woman who called in the previous episode. When Nancy and Jonathan get there, she has a psychotic rat trapped in a cage. Jonathan takes some pictures as proof. As they are leaving, we see the rat explode, just like the ones in the factory the previous day, except the goo from this rat starts moving. We're back with Billy. Somehow he's escaped the basement, running to his car and driving to a payphone. As he dials 911, he is suddenly in the upside down, just like Will in the last season. He sees a crowd of people walking towards him, and out of the fog walks a mirror image of himself. Then, suddenly, he is at the pool working. While there, he attacks another lifeguard, tying her up and taking her to the goo monster in the basement of the factory. Chapter 3, The Case of the Missing Lifeguard. Gee, I wonder who that lifeguard's gonna be. After getting belligerently drunk at the restaurant where he and Joyce were supposed to have our date, comes home to find Eleven's door closed. He barges in like an absolutely crazy person to find her with Max. They're doing girly things. Reading magazines, dancing, using Elle's powers to spike on Mike and the guys, being gross. It's the most normal thing Elle has done probably ever. Unfortunately, they decide to spy on Billy. Elle drops in on him when he's in the factory, and she hears that lifeguard, whose name is Heather, crying. Jump to the next morning. Max and Elle leave the cabin early to go look for Billy. When they get to Max's house, no Billy, but there are empty bags of ice and bloody lifeguard gear. Max and Elle head to the pool looking for Heather, but she didn't show up to work today. Using Heather's picture, Elle goes spying on her. What she finds isn't good. They go to Heather's house, and who do they find there but Billy? Heather's there too. They're having dinner with her parents. At this point, it's become clear to the audience that what is inside Billy is the Mind Flayer. After Max and Eleven leave, Billy and Heather beat the crap out of Heather's parents. Hop wakes up, hungover as hell, and Joy shows up to the cabin talking magnets. They have the stupidest fight because Hop has completely reverted from his growth last year and doesn't believe Joyce, even though she's been right about this shit for the past 2 years. They both go to Hawkins' lab to be sure they aren't back. They aren't, but Joyce experiences some super fun PTSD. It also comes out that Joyce is planning to sell her house. As they're heading out, they hear someone. It's the Terminator. He has broken into Hawkins' lab and proceeds to serve Hopper a beating. Is it karma for his regression? Yes. I believe it is. Will wakes up early and gets into his full D&D attire. All he has wanted this season is to play D&D, and he has created a campaign. and Mike and Lucas are total jerks about it. They act completely inconvenienced by Will wanting to play. They genuinely hurt his feelings, and he ends up running home. He throws a big old temper tantrum and wrecks Byers' castle. As he's finishing up with that, he gets the tingly winglies again, just as Mike and Lucas show back up. Nancy shows the sexist newspaper guys her pictures of the psychotic rat. They literally laugh her out of the room. Because the pictures weren't enough, Nancy wants to go back and get that infected rat as proof. Obviously, the rat isn't there, but they do find this old lady eating fertilizer. Over at the mall, Robin translates the rest of the Russian message and then cracks the code. They stay late and spy on secret shipments from the roof of the mall. Chapter 4, the Sauna Test. Heather's parents are tied up at the factory. They get possessed by the goo. How is it getting grosser? Fertilizer eating lady is carted off to the hospital. Nancy and Jonathan get fired from the paper and then have a fight. That night, Nancy goes to visit the old lady at the hospital. Her name's Mrs. Driscoll, by the way. And we're gonna pause on Nancy for just 1 second. Somehow, Joyce carted a knocked out Hopper all the way back to the cabin and took off his pants. Anyway, Joyce tells Hopper that the guy who kicked his booty the night before was driving a motorcycle. When Hopper went to the mayor's office the other day, there was a big dude with a motorcycle helmet. They head over there, and Hop uses some physical persuasion to get the mayor to tell them that he sold land in Hawkins to Starcourt. All of the littles, except for Dustin, meet up and connect Will's tingly winglies to the power outages that have been happening. They do some recon, and to confirm that Billy is currently possessed by the Mind Flayer, they come up with a test. They plan to lock him in the sauna because the Mind Flayer likes it cold. After the pool closes, they manage to lure him in there to find out he is, in fact, possessed by the Mind Flayer, who manages to escape the sauna and chokes out 11 before running away. Because of the hive mind nature of the upside-down monsters, when Billy is in the sauna, Mrs. Driscoll begins to geek out while Nancy is in the room with her. After Billy managed to run off, we see that he and Heather have built an army of people for the goo monster, which I will now be calling the Goo Flayer. I know it's called the Spider Monster, but I like Goo Flayer better. Robin gets a blueprint of the mall and realizes that an air vent in the ice cream shop connects to the secret Russian base. Unfortunately, Dustin is not small enough to fit inside the vent, so they bribe Erica, Lucas's sister, with a lifetime supply of ice cream to get her to do it. She gets in, opens the door for them, and they find out what's in those boxes the Russians have been carting around. It's green goo. There's a lot of goo this season. Suddenly, they all get locked in. Turns out this secret Russian base is an elevator, and they start to drop. Chapter 5, the Flayed. The dream team in the elevator managed to not die after it crashes to the bottom, but they are hella stuck down there. The elevator buttons need a key card, and it's at the bottom of an insane drop, so there's no climbing out. By the morning, the Russians open the door to collect the boxes. Dream Team sneaks out as the door is closing, and it turns out this green goo is seemingly acidically corrosive. They manage to sneak into the control room, where Steve wins his first fight of the series. Go, Steve! In this control room, they find that huge laser the Russians have been using. This is what has been causing blackouts all over town. Joyce and Hop go to all the properties the mayor sold to Starcourt. At one of them, they find a secret room under the floorboards. There are 2 Russian scientists there, and of course, the Terminator shows up. They kidnap one of the scientists, but he only speaks Russian. They head to Murray's place so he can translate. Nancy, having spent the night at the hospital with Mrs. Driscoll, knows some freaky shit is going down. She calls the Byers' house, trying to talk to Will, but he isn't there. Nancy and Jonathan head over to the Wheelers' house where they find all the littles. They all get on the same page and realize that the Mind Flayer has possessed several people in town, including Nancy and Jonathan's old boss, the head of the newspaper. After heading to his house, they confirmed that all of the possessed people are guzzling chemicals. In an attempt to find the Mind Flayer's base, they have the brilliant idea to go get Mrs. Driscoll and let her lead the way. Their plan doesn't work because it's only the 5th episode and they can't have it all worked out by now. They are attacked at the hospital by the Flayed, which is what we're calling the possessed people. Huge fight ensues, and a nasty goo monster is born. Chapter 6. A Pluribus Unum. Out of many, one. We're going to jump around a little bit here. Picking back up with the dream team, they have set off the alarm after the guard that Steve beat up alerts everyone. Robin and Steve hold the door so Dustin and Erica can escape. They get shut up with truth-telling drugs and are high as hell. The Russians beat up on Steve a little bit because apparently it's not a season of Stranger Things until somebody's beat the shit out of Steve. Lucky for Steve, Dustin and Erica created a distraction and saved both their butts. After some tomfoolery and physical violence on Hopper's part, because that's his whole personality this season, they get the scientist, whose name is Alexei, to tell them what it is the Russians are doing in Hawkins. What they're doing is reopening the gate, presumably because they think they can weaponize the creatures of the Upside Down. Alexei says he can turn off the device that's opening the gate, but it's too heavily guarded for them to get down there, which to Hop is basically a dare. They call Dr. Owens for backup and head straight to Hawkins. Jumping back in with our goo flayer over at the hospital and everybody getting their ass beat. The littles in the hospital realize the mind flayer is there. So Elle hops in on the fight. Nobody's seriously hurt, but the goo flayer gets away. Turns out there's an even bigger goo flayer that it absorbs into. Ew. 11 does some dream walking, trying to find any of the Flayed. She can't find a single one, but does find Billy. He's sitting alone in his room. Obviously a trap. Instead of going over there, 11 decides to hop inside Billy's head. When she does, she sees this huge dark cloud that is the Mind Flayer. It has hidden itself inside Billy's worst memories. Once Elle gets to the middle, she sees the factory where it's hiding out. Unfortunately, the Mind Flayer catches her, flips things around on her, and finds out that she's in the cabin. He gathers his army, and they all head straight for her. Chapter 7. The Bite. It's the 4th of July. In the last episode, our a-hole of a mayor gave up Hopper. He gets his, though, when the Terminator threatens him. Nice. He's throwing this huge carnival fair thing. Hop and Joyce head there because that's where the kids are supposed to be. The mayor sees them and the Terminator shows up. Using a weapon with a silencer, he murders Alexei there at the carnival. Murray tries to help him, but by the time he finds Joyce and Hop, Alexei has passed away in between two carnival rides. Murray, Joyce, and Hop all manage to get away. Using a walkie-talkie, they overhear the Russians saying that they have the kids trapped in the mall, and they head straight there. The dream team makes it out of the secret Russian base. They all hide in the movie theater while Dustin sends out an SOS. Steve and Robin eventually come down, puking up massive amounts of popcorn. They have a heart-to-heart where Steve admits his feelings for Robin, and Robin admits that she's into girls. They all attempt to get out of the mall, but every single door is being guarded. They hide, but are slowly being surrounded by guards. Over with the peeps in the cabin, a 3-story tall goo flayer is headed straight for them. They attempt to hold it off, blocking doors and windows. 11 does her best to keep it out of the cabin, but it eventually grabs hold of her, and it takes every single person there to get her free. Elle uses the last of her power to rip apart the goo flayer, giving them the chance to run away. The group breaks into a store to grab supplies and patch up Elle. While there, they hear Dustin's SOS and head for the mall. They arrive at the mall just as the armed guards surround the dream team. Elle dispatches them, but immediately collapses. The episode ends with her screaming in pain. Chapter 8. The Battle of Starcourt. Jumping right back in with Elle screaming in pain. Her wound is gnarly, and there is something in there moving. Jonathan attempts to cut it out, but he can't get it done. 11 has to use her powers to rip the thing out herself. Hop, Joyce, and Murray all arrive just as this goo flayer baby flops onto the floor. Finally, our group is all together. So what do? Split up again. You would think after 3 seasons they would learn that they work better together, whatever. The adults go down to the Russian base. The dream team heads to Cerebro to navigate them through the air vents, and everyone else is supposed to be headed straight to Murray's as like a safe house. Unfortunately, Nancy's car has been sabotaged by the Flayed Billy, and they all have to run back into the mall. Before they can even try to fix the car, the goo flare drops down from the ceiling, forcing the group to split up. The dream team at Cerebro sees that the mall is under attack, so Robin and Steve drive back and save Nancy, Jonathan, Lucas, and Will. Although they're all relatively unharmed, the goo flare begins chasing them down the street. After commandeering some Russian uniforms, Joyce, Hop, and Murray all manage to sneak their way onto the Russian base. The Terminator is shortly behind them. While Murray is flipping some switches, Hop and Joyce plan an official date, because there's been this forced angry attraction between the two of them all season. In order to get the keys to turn off the machine that's trying to reopen the gate, Hop and Joyce need Planck's constant. The only person who knows it is Dustin's girlfriend, Suzy, and she forces Dustin to sing a never-ending story before she forks it over. Please enjoy these shots of everyone's faces as they are forced to endure this. Max, Mike, and Eleven all make an attempt to escape from the mall, but Billy stops them, dispatching of Mike and Max with zero issue. This causes the goo flare that's chasing the peeps in the car to turn around and head back for the mall. So the car flips a U to head back and help everyone. Just as Billy is about to feed Eleven to the goo flare, everyone from the car who somehow beat the goo flare back to the mall starts setting off fireworks directly at it, creating a distraction. About 5 things happen simultaneously, so stay with me. Max and Mike have finally woken up after getting knocked on their prepubescent little butts. Billy is hovering over Eleven, ready to kill her, but she uses a memory that she saw in Billy's head to connect to him. Downstairs in the Russian lab, Hop and the Terminator are having a throwdown. Hop finally gets the upper hand and chunks the Terminator into the laser machine. Billy pulls himself out of the Mind Flayer possession just as Max and Mike are arriving at the food court, and Max is forced to watch as Billy stands up to the goo flare, saving Eleven, but losing his own life in the process. Back in the Russian base, Joyce is forced to close the gate as Hopper is standing right next to the machine. Everyone standing next to the machine is wiped off the face of the map, and the goo flare falls to the ground as its connection to the Upside Down is cut off. Max holds Billy as he takes his final breaths, letting out a pain-filled, "I'm sorry." Joyce downstairs sees that Hop is gone, but she and Murray have to run to safety. Right then, Dustin and Erica see the US forces coming in to assist, but it's too late. Everything is over. The military goes over every room, but the Russians are gone. The night comes to a close with the mall being set on fire. The group comes back together in the parking lot, the tears in Joyce's eyes telling Eleven that her father is gone. All of the deaths caused by the Mind Flayer have been covered up by the mall fire. The mayor is arrested, and life resumes. Robin and Steve get new jobs. Joyce adopts Eleven and sells her house. Everyone is there helping them pack up, and everyone has to say goodbye. Nancy and Jonathan, Mike and Eleven, the entire D&D group all say goodbye. While folding up some of Hop's old clothes, Joyce finds the speech that he was supposed to give Mike and Eleven. Joyce gives it to Elle. And in that speech, Hop tells her how he feels, that he thinks they're slipping apart. He misses his time with her, and he's scared because things are changing. He accepts it, though, and tells Eleven to grow up, to live, to feel and get hurt. But all that he asks of her is that she keep the door open 3 inches. This season ends with Separate Ways playing as Joyce closes the door on the oh so familiar Byers house. As the credits roll, we see snow, a frost-covered Russian prison comes into view. 2 Russian guards are selecting a prisoner. They skip over a cell saying, "Not the American." Instead, a Russian prisoner is dragged out of his cell, down to a cage where a Demogorgon is released to feed on him. And then the season really ends. Thank you so much for watching. If you have made it this far, please go ahead and press some buttons down below if you're into that kind of thing. If not, I will see you in the next one.